All right, between the ears, founder Bill, welcome to the show. You're one of the rarefied, you're in really prestigious company, multi-time guests on best hour of their day.
Wow, it is an honor to be in that company, although I should hesitate with saying I don't know who in that company is. So,
Yeah. Don't,
uh,
it's an honor depending on what you feel about now. It's good people, the
yeah,
Austin Malleolos of the world, the Dr. Sean Pastuches. So, you know, pretty well recognized people in the fitness world. Now, we were
sure.
just talking about for you and your wife Cariana, I came on to the box Zoom. We're all, like you said, we're all becoming experts at Zoom. So,
Yeah.
I talked about this though. One thing I would like to see Zoom do. I don't know if anyone from Zoom listens to this podcast, but if they did, you know how you have your group calls for the box, like I was on.
Yeah.
So I kind of picture Zoom like you're going to a party, and you show up and there's 20 people, and you can look at them in this gallery view. But now I don't want everything I say to be heard by everyone. So I would like for you to be able to click on one person and have like a private conversation with that person while still seeing everybody else. Do you like that
I
idea?
think that's interesting. I like it. I mean, you can do that. So you can, do that obviously via text with the chat,
Correct.
right? But I like that. I like that. Maybe I don't want to. I mean, I like where you're going with that, Jay. I do enjoy that. I like that idea.
Well, because that's a party. That's a real party, right? You show up, but you have side conversations. But I can see you. And then I can be like, oh, Bill's having a really interesting conversation over there. So maybe I can then click on your bubble and be like, hey, I want to join that.
Right.
Because you can maybe, this is next level. But maybe like if I click
Yeah.
on Bill, to everyone else, it split screens me and you. So you can kind of see who's off in these separate conversations.
I understand. Yeah.
Right? Then you
Yep.
see like
Like you,
you see like four single girls over in one bubble. You're like, oh, okay. I'm gonna go talk to. It's just like being out.
yeah. Or if you're in my case, you just stand there and look confused and angry at everyone.
You're like, Cariana, why did you introduce me to this person? Men will get in a whole new set of troubles over this.
Yeah. I don't think much would change for most. I think
So
it's a good idea.
thank you. There, like I said, I was talking at your box virtually, and you and I kind of had a side conversation that everybody listened to, but it was really about mindset. And
Yeah.
you are the founder of Between the Years. That's even more important right now, I believe, than it is, when you can leave the house. So I just wanted to have a conversation with you about, you know, running the full gamut of this. It's like, what should we be doing? What can we be doing? What are You're always good at some tips, So for example, you told me to go work out with my earbuds in. I did that, but some other things that maybe the listeners can check out. So where
Yeah.
would you even begin right now? If it's, no, we're not talking fitness, we're just talking mental health between the ears.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things to begin with is always going to be the present moment and the now and where are you? Like where are you right now? To pay attention to just what your state is. And I think the given uncertainty of what we're in, there's a lot of focus on when will it be over, how long will it last. There's a lot of focus on when right now, and it does pull us out of the present moment. And in the present moment, I think is really where the keys to growth and understanding and certainly awareness and control is. So for the way I'm looking at this, I'm looking at dialing up, if it was a volume knob, dialing up your presence as a way to build that awareness of where you are right now. And then we can start looking at things like, okay, where do you want to be, what do you have to do to get there, and various kind of tactics. But without knowing where you are now, it's just kind of a shot in the dark.
So when you say where you are now, how would somebody even begin to know that, to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is like just paying attention to the internal signs and signals. Kind of looking at, I always could tell people to like think about three things. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? And then certainly like from a different standpoint, like what am I seeing? But the essence of that is to pause for however long is needed and to try to pay attention to the internal signals that's present within you, and that's going to paint a pretty good picture as as far as kind of how you're experiencing this unknown and this challenge.
All right, let's dive a little deeper. Let me talk about me. You diagnose me, and because I think everybody else can resonate. I'm interested to hear, what you think. So I think for a lot of
Okay.
us, we're kind of on lockdown, and a few different things happen. One, we're kind of like just either we're super lazy and we're just like, I cannot motivate myself to do anything. And I think we've all probably felt that way, at least for a period of time or at least a day. And maybe that still bounces back and you feel that. But I think a lot of other people, hopefully, especially those that listen to this podcast, are feeling more like me, where it's like, all right, I still have to do some work every day, but I also want to better myself. Like I need to take this downtime to better myself right now. And whether that mean, reading or learning or journaling, where do you start with that? And then also, where do you find that balance? Because I can tell you from my perspective, my at the end of every day, what I start to think about is I did not do enough.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have 16, 18 hours of being awake with literally where other than going for a walk, I really can't do anything else. Why am I not accomplishing X, Y, or Z?
Do you know what enough is?
No, see, this is why I'm on the couch laying down and you're sitting there drinking kombucha. No, and that's kind of what I was really trying to think
Yeah.
about, because it's easy to kind of just stack a list right now where it's like I'm going to accomplish everything I've never accomplished in 40 years,
Yeah.
but so where is enough? How does someone define that? Like, how do I go to bed tonight and say that was a very good, productive day?
I mean, I think for sure that's going to be super individual. Like I don't know what that is for you. I mean, if we want to dig in and make it like real versus kind of hypothetical, I think we should dig into it.
All
But I
right, go
certainly
ahead.
think
Let's
that
no, let's make this a real,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
obviously it's generalized, so anybody can plug in reading for cooking, but certainly,
Hmm.
what would you say to? Because I almost, to be honest, I almost feel like I'm creating an OCD in my head
Yes.
because I'm just like I need to do so much more, and like I get mad at Roz when she talks. I'm like I shouldn't be talking right now. I should be learning, or I should be,
So, what is it about learning or doing things or whatever activities you have? What is it about those things that you actually want to experience?
I think right now it's more so in an effort to say, I can't, there's a few things we can't do just because, I typically would, go to a gym or train more and we're limited. I'm still working out every day and, trying to stay on top of that. But then it's like, okay, what do I fill the rest of my 12 hours with? And I do work for best hour of their day and for Thunder Bro. So it's not as if I have no obligations, but they're minimized. And also we're saving time where we're not driving places. I'm not working on the weekends for CrossFit right now. So I think a lot of it is just trying to make sure I'm a, you know, this is a very generalized statement again, but staying productive, not letting my brain turn to mush right now and feeling like, hey, when I come out of this thing, I'm coming out of it better. I don't want to come out of it memorizing every episode of The Office and 20 pounds overweight.
Of course. Why? Why don't you want to come out of it being an Office Hall of Fame trivia overweight person?
I feel like there's no value there
So where in your life really is there value that you do?
for
What gives you
myself.
the most value? Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I think there's certainly an aspect of it where growing a business and helping others is important. So I'm always, I'm trying to do that, be it hopping on calls with you guys. I've done that for numerous boxes and reaching out to
Yeah.
people, doing more of these where it's just, interacting with other human beings and providing this content. Um, and then it's like, hey, the more I learn, the more value I have once we leave here, be it to have conversations with others, to explore other careers, even, you never know.
Yeah, and so it sounds like it's not so much a lack of being unproductive, but a lack of having connection to things that are valuable in your life.
I think, yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I'm really trying to, while I've not necessarily dove into between the years, a huge part of what I'm trying to do is read like books on stoicism and history,
Sure,
right? History, I mostly
sure.
watch YouTube videos, but but really trying to say, okay, if when I'm out of this thing, I want to have bettered myself.
Yeah.
So like, and that's probably where I'm emphasizing the value, but that's a big part of it.
Yeah, so I think that if you get to the end of the day and you think to yourself, "I didn't do enough," I think I would encourage you to relook at that statement in a more accepting way or a more positive way of, what did I do? How did I operate that was in line with my pursuit of value, either giving to others or obtaining for myself for unknown, kind of a future thing. And so I think when we look at like what did I do versus how did I do it, um, that's a major kind of distinction. And the scarcity of action, I think, is usually dominated by certainly looking at a quantity, like enough, right? Like so, Brene Brown talks a ton about. She's like the scarcity doctor. Um, that lack of having or that not enough. If I encourage people, especially through between the years, to have that internal dialogue with yourself and connecting to really who you are, and that's going to go into like what is it, what are the things that you value, how do you want to live, and then um, expressing that through the actions. I think if you can get into that pattern of like, yeah, these are the five things maybe that are super valuable to me, family relationships, relationship with Roz, community value delivering via Best Hour of Their Day or Thunderbro or HQ or whatever, and then whatever the couple other things, maybe like Jason's personal value of learning history or whatever it might be, looking at, okay, how did I connect to and express the things that are valuable in my life? And when we, I think, can look at that, then we move into accepting that's how you're choosing to live in line with the value and not comparing to, I don't know everything about, you know, the First World War or whatever it is in history. And because you're not going to be an expert. You're not going to be a, you know, PhD level. I mean, who knows how long this thing will go for. And I'm not downplaying your mental prowess, of course, but does that make sense? I think.
No, I think that's really great. And I think, again, hopefully people listening to kind of my story are just putting in, whatever their values are. But I agree. I think that was actually something that kind of occurred to me. So, you know, I've been training just 20 to 30 minutes a day of, what I would deem CrossFit fitness type stuff. And I talked about that at your box. Like I'm lacking motivation. So it's a lot of body weight, 3, 2, 1, walk in the room and go. And what I've have been enjoying is kind of getting back to my yoga practice I've not done for 10 years now. And it was
Yeah,
during this,
beautiful.
I said to Roz, I'm like, I'm 41 now. When I was really into yoga, I was probably 22, 25. And I was like, it was such a different goal. Like I just wanted to be the most flexible person in that room and be impressive to everybody. And I said, now it's funny. I'm like really enjoying yoga for the journey.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I think that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I think for folks who, because I hear this one a lot, like, hey, how do you stay motivated? Or I'm lacking some motivation. I want some inspiration. And I think that there are, of course, folks who are inspiring and motivating, and we can look to as, their unwitting mentors. Essentially, we can be like, wow, that's that person. I think that's the story of the underdog, right? They overcame in face of adversity. And so I understand that being motivated externally is part of human nature. But I would encourage folks to similarly kind of look further into the purpose of whatever it is you're doing. And so, physical fitness or a movement practice at this time is incredibly necessary and vital and essential for physical, mental, and certainly emotional health and immunity and all of that. And so right now, you're training 20 to 30 minutes a day, you're revisiting your yoga practice, um, connecting to really what not only the essence of that is, but why it's important in your life and what it expresses that you value of how you want to live. And I think right now, people who are at that games level, that sanctional thing, like they're gonna have to figure out a way to, you know, continue training, so to speak, even though we don't know when the next time that there's going to be a competition. But for the 99.9% rest of us, where maybe that competitive element that we leaned on before has been taken away, you and the boys at the box, or you and the girls or whatever, and you like to push each other and challenge each other, and maybe that's not there. Or maybe there's that coach who all you have to do is walk through the door, wipe the sleep out of your eyes, buckle your seatbelt, and they're going to take care of you for the rest of the day. Now it's like, no, check it out. You have to do all of this on your own. And so, one of the things I think that is very important right now for folks to look at is, what does me moving express out of, like, how do I express something, a trait, and something of who I am, that is almost like the movement is just a token of gratitude for that. And so, not every workout is obviously going to be maybe this sort of zen-like experience, but I think in moments like this, when we think about not the completion of the workout being like, okay, good, I worked out today, but I'm somebody who values my health, values my fitness, and wants to be a positive example for maybe my kids or my family member or somebody in my life that puts their effort into maintaining this lifestyle, and this workout's going to be a representation of it. And I think when we look at it more wholesome and more internally, that doesn't matter whether or not you did the, support your local box fundraiser and you got 5 rounds or you got 9 rounds. Like, what you expressed as a virtue of that action is far greater than the, um, I worked out or I didn't work out kind of deal. If that,
No, I think you're really, at least for me, hitting home where a lot of the times, going back to kind of like it's not about the destination. It's really why you're
yeah,
doing it, and why it's important to you. So for example, another thing that I'm trying to do is I'm like, okay, this is your opportunity to, and as I'm speaking, I'm also like, I'm probably trying to do everything I've not accomplished, in my life in these, 2 to 3 months, but learning another language,
sure.
and for me it's a language, for somebody else it might be, an instrument, but understanding not just, why, more so understanding why you're doing it for you and what that means for you.
Yes. Yeah. I'm
Is
gonna
it
say,
is that it? Do I get the certificate? Do I
you
get
got it.
the-
Who can I mail it? What's your mailing address? But I think that that's really, so I just, kind of recently put up a post last night or whatever. And, I okay, so my background was being in special forces and kind of operating at that level. And by associative memory, people assume that that comes with a certain kind of character. And, we talked about this on the first time I was on, where you asked me if I read, David Goggins' book, and we kind of had some fun banter with SEALs. And look, the sensationalism of the military has been something that we have to look at for kind of how that storyline plays out in people's thoughts and perceptions. Um, but one of the things that people always kind of look to is they say, "Oh, you guys are like mentally tough," and of mindset. And that is something that is a term that gets thrown around quite a bit. And if we look at sports, professional sports, often the commentators or whoever is sort of a commentator on it will be like that. What separates that guy is his mindset. And it's like that might be very well. That might be very true. I think everyone will probably agree that mindset is very important and is a tremendous asset. My issue with the word, though, and the liberty upon which it's used is, what does it actually mean? And I don't really feel that there is. It's just like when Coach Glassman said, "What's the definition of fitness?" And it was like, what was it? There was no definition. There were some people saying this, there were some people saying that. And so he was kind of like, well, we need to sort of define our terms. That way we can then move through with it. And I think that right now with mindset, my definition, I took it a stab. I followed in Coach Glassman's influence and said, look, the between the ears definition of mindset is a mode of self communication that drives actions as expressions of inner beliefs. And so contained within that is, obviously the self communication element. What are you speaking to yourself? What are you hearing about yourself? But then the action as an expression of an inner belief really takes the emphasis and it puts it on, really looking more at the why and the how of what you do. And when we can connect to the purpose and the intent and the energy behind our actions from a place like within us, I think then we really start to tap into this advanced mindset type work where people look and they say, "Oh my gosh, you did this maybe tremendous feat." Um, and I would submit that many of some of the strongest minds are not the heroes and the accolades and the Michael Jordans, but the people who do phenomenal things because they believe so strongly in them and they have this unbreakable will and resolve, and that's because it's not this external thing they rely on, but more of that internal. This is who I am, and I'm going to present that authentically to the world, and do my bit.
Just for the listeners and for me, can you repeat that definition?
Yeah, it's a mode of self communication that drives actions as expressions of inner beliefs.
And that's on the test.
That's on the test. That's like I'm stomping my foot. That's the bold.
so, so when you bring up the military and you bring up this idea that those are people, not necessarily the military, but you could be impressed by people who do that. Who can you name a few? Like, who would those people be in your life?
For sure, there's one of my mentors. He was my boss when I first got to my team. I'll call him Nick. He's still in, so I won't say his full name. He's not. He's overseas and stuff. He's been somebody I learned a tremendous amount of that from, as the belief part, and being able to spend some intimate time with him and learn and really see how this is from a source so deep within that is just amazing. He's certainly been one that I've had. Who knows? Maybe I'm like trying to recruit him for when he decides to retire to start up, because the world needs to hear him speak. Um, that's certainly been somebody that immediately comes to mind. I had a coach in college. I was college athlete, a coach in college, who's now the athletic director at my school, Montclair State University, Rob Chesney, who had what I thought was a very strong mindset. You do the right thing. And there was a thing every time we would warm up, he would be like, get to the line and don't cheat it. That was always his thing, like, don't cheat it. And even in like little warm ups where we're just running side to side, back and forth, you didn't have to step on the line. You're kind of 20-year-old kid, whatever. But it's like, no, you step on the line because that's kind of what you do, and you don't cheat it. Those were certainly two. My father was, certainly influential growing up. Looking at, he was. Um, I remember reading his like Zen books and his ninja books and all of this kind of crazy stuff. He was certainly ahead of his time with some of the looking more to the east for some thoughts and whatnot. Um, yeah, and I mean, I guess one of the things that's actually really cool is, especially with Between the Ears and the work that I'm fortunate to do with people, is because it is very personal. It's the deep work. I learn from every single client, like, because everybody brings such a uniqueness, and when we're able to sort of tap into and understand who we are and express that authenticity, there's a tremendous amount of strength in that, and I am constantly learning from others as to how they approach these types of involved training experiences and lessons and thoughts. So I learn a tremendous amount, from my clients, especially.
Well, I'm sure when it comes to your clients, you can't divulge, a ton of information and all that. But can you think of two clients? I kind of think of two ideas of the listeners. Hey, I want to learn more about how to improve my mindset or learn more from Between the Years. And I think of two types of people. One, someone who's like, I have no, success when it comes to this stuff, and I'm weak-minded, and I want to get better. Can you think of someone you worked with that maybe came in and then you saw drastic improvement in how they, went back to the real world? And then secondly would be someone who maybe, like me, might come in and say, like, I think I have a decent mindset. And then once they kind of go to you, they're like, whoa, I was wrong. And maybe
Mhm.
they saw the biggest change.
Without a doubt, the former. So somebody that's kind of right at the top of my mind came in. She joined the gym in an effort to save her life. She recognized that she had to be much more healthy than she was, and did research and looked it up and came into the gym and said, "Hey, do you guys work with this demographic?" And we said yes, and the rest is kind of history. And then she signed up for Between the Years, and I did a 48-hour immersion where it was, a full weekend, and all I said was, "This is the price. This is the weekend. This is when you show up. Are you in or are you out?" And that was all the information given. And she was the first one to sign up. And physically, she was not someone that you would say is a physical stud, right? Like, not even a year before, basically started, we'll say, all of the, functional fitness, CrossFit, like healthy eating, all of that. And so, had, from a physical standpoint, obviously recognized that she had to take this healthy approach to saving her life. And she not only challenged me to be like, well, I say this thing is for everyone, but if I really only mean the top 1% in every CrossFit gym, then that's like not that's a crock of shit then, And she has done the immersion, she's done my online programs, the practice, um, done a seminar, like pretty much signs up for everything, because that quest to learn and never feeling like, I think she's ever arrived, but always has more work to do, but can enjoy the learning lesson of that journey. um, is just somebody who, not only has she changed her life and has said, like, this has quite frankly saved my life, but she's also, for myself and Cariana, like, taught us so much as well and inspired us. And I think about her sometimes. I think about her often when it's like, because I have doubts. I have personal insecurities and doubts and questions. And when I think about somebody who inspires me, I always think about Soli, because she's just an absolute stud of a human and has done the work and has said, like, "Hey, this has saved my life," but she has saved her own life. I've just merely, helped shine some light on perhaps the path. Um, and then someone who has signed up, who was completely caught off guard. Yeah, I think there's been a few who are generally on the higher awareness level, have had some high performance histories, be that level one staff or CrossFit affiliate ownership or some military successes. And I think that what's sometimes the shiny packaging could be misjudged as between the ears is kind of maybe this like grueling challenge led by a green beret and like angry looking shaved head dude who isn't like whatever, just her tone, and I understand it has a certain packaging,
Yeah, you do
which
have
I'm
a little American History X look going on right now. Just for the record, you got the
ah
hoodie, you got a shaved head, you know. So I can see where
yeah,
they're
in the
coming from.
corner. Yes. And that's I had somebody actually who did an event, an in-person, a live event, who said they got to the gym. It was it started at like 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night. And they got to the gym and they almost left because they thought that I was gonna like get aggressive with them. And I was like, I'm gonna go to jail if like slam you against the wall. You're like like I can't do that. But I think people kind of see that and they know maybe either my background or just how maybe like how I am or whatever, um, and think it's something. And then all of a sudden, we start talking about, hey, how was your emotional experience during something? What came out? And we really dive in and strip away all of the kind of tough guy armor stuff, which I try not to put on, but I'm not obviously immune to doing that. And I also am not going to be like a flowing robes Buddhist kind of guy. That's just I'm trying to find my own authenticity, obviously as well. um, but yeah, there's certainly been folks who have been like, wow, really, we're talking about like love and compassion, and some emotions where unfortunately mostly on the male side. That usually catches people with a curveball.
You talk we in talking about mindset and saying, that first example in Sully or this guy that shows up, whether it's a drastic improvement or just someone that overcame their own, obstacles. How do you even begin to measure mindset?
I don't have a measurement for it. I don't know.
So how do you know you're
um
improving then?
how do you feel? How has your life been? How has your kind of are you can you say, hey, I feel a noticeable change? um Clients have said like, it's awesome that I feel better, but it's amazing that my wife notices and says like, hey, you're a better husband now. That's been a pretty common one with especially with males who have said, I kind of signed up to improve myself, and in doing so, I improved my relationship. I saved my marriage. That's I've heard that quite a few times,
Have you
and
had people the opposite, like maybe come to this, improve their mindset, and realize they're in a toxic relationship?
not a actually, yeah. So, yep, there's been a couple, probably two that I know of. There's been two that I know of who have said like, I realize I need to make a change, and this is the exact change I haven't been looking at and facing, and I've been denying and repressing and suppressing this. And then there's been folks who have said, I need to make a career change because after working through this, not just kind of a willy-nilly thing, recognize that how I want to live and from a internal place just is not aligned with maybe how I've currently been going. But yeah, there's been both sides of it for sure.
Well, when you think
Which
about
is sort
mind,
of, I think, yeah.
oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add, which is one of the challenges is especially now because we're in this environment where people are 6 months ago, and maybe around here, and I'm in New Jersey, so it could be geographically maybe biased, but you asked somebody on the street, you walk by somebody, hey, how you doing? And they'd be like, just just so busy. I've got the kids doing this, and then that's going that, and then we've got this project going on, and and everybody was busy. It's like, all right. Well, now you go for a walk and you ask people, "Hey, how you doing?" And they're like, "I'm just so bored." And so we've traded out being busy for being bored. And I think what we're actually trying to say is we're just trying to distract ourselves. And the challenge with some of the internal work, I believe, is that you bring to awareness some of the some of the darkest distractions or the things you've been running away from the most. And the essence of the work of trying to connect to and understand who you are and really honor that through action, not just like a logical understanding, but an action oriented understanding. You have to face the things that you haven't been willing to face. You've been able to face them, but have you been willing to face them? And not everybody is ready for that. And I completely understand that. I think that I don't take it for granted that some folks say, "Hey, you know what? Like, I'm just trying to survive right now, and I'm not ready for this work. I want to do the work, but I know there's things I have to pay attention to that I'm not willing to pay attention to." And I get that. I think it's a little sad, like just from a overall perspective. Not, I don't think that they're a bad person. But I think that right now what we're seeing is people, where are you going to go? Some of those exit doors, some of those sort of mental back doors that we could scoot out and busy ourselves with, or spend time away and just wait, not do anything. Those are closing rapidly, and all of a sudden we're seeing, like, you know I don't have I don't have my 3 hour Saturday workout to hang and get some space. And um, what do you hear when it's very silent is something that I think people are starting to, the murmurs are starting to get louder and louder. And yeah, that's, I think, where we're at right now.
Well, that brings up the drill that you said. Hey, go work out, put your, AirPods in, noise canceling on so you don't hear anything. When you say the silence, be it in a workout or just when you're sitting there bored, what should people be digging into?
I think paying attention, like, I always fall back to the awareness part. Um, I hesitate telling people they should do anything, because I think when we say, like, "Oh, I should do this," or "I should do that," I think should is a combination of shame and could. And so that personal not doing enough, or not worthy enough, or not good enough, um, that shame element of feeling like you're owning something and not a good person, combined with the potential to do something. That's what a could is, right? And so when we say, "Hey, I should eat better," um, contained within that should is the shame of not being a person who eats good or who eats well. And I think that within each of us, we just need to make some adjustments, or whatnot. So when there's the silence or when there's the boredom, simply pay attention. What are you thinking? Right? What are the thoughts going on inside of your head? What is the tone of the voice that you're speaking to yourself with? If mindset is a mode of self communication, are you aggressive with yourself? Are you berating yourself? Are you enabling yourself? Are you compassionate? Like, what is the tone of the voice? And then what are you feeling as well? What are the, not only the emotions, but what are the physical sensations in the body parts that you um, feel these emotions? I think that the emotions are certainly manifested in the body, and there's an embodiment of emotions. And so paying attention to those, and that's where I think awareness is the root of any and all progress that can happen. So if you're bored, if it's the silence, that's a way to check in with yourself, simply to pay attention and kind of get back to that present moment of what your experience of life is now.
So is that a drill you would, I guess, why is exercise a very common way to dive into that?
Yeah, so different modes of intensity activate different parts of the brain. And so high intensity, like we'll just say Fran or, max effort sled push, or we'll say 25 seconds all out on the assault bike. Like that is going to highlight areas of the brain that are different than low or moderate intensity. And so because of that, I think when we use movement and we use fitness in a way that works with sort of how our body and brain are connected and experience life, we are able to raise our awareness, if we're looking for it and if we're paying attention, as to that mode of self-communication. Going on a long walk, one of the exercises in the practice, which is my online program thing, is going for a long walk, but not listening to any music, not listening to any podcasts, not talking with friends. Like it's you and you going for this walk. And there's a corresponding mindset and a practical exercise and questions and all of these things to dive into. But that is going to be much different. You're going to be able to hear and feel and experience things differently than if I were to say, hey, you're going to sprint to the stop sign as fucking hard as you can until you can no longer run anymore. Like when you're sprinting, you're not going to really be like able to think or pay attention. It's just going to be laser focus, off we go. And so where movement, we can really learn so much about ourselves is when we understand too that the different types of intensity have different impacts on our brain, and light up different areas, and we can see and hear and feel things differently to further get to know ourselves.
Do you think part of the problem these days, and this is something I've realized during this lockdown, is there's so much coming at us?
Yes. Yes.
Like you
100%.
said,
Yeah.
it's podcasts, it's books, it's just YouTube, it's every. I mean, there's just so much to consume. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. So I remember when I first heard of FOMO, and I was like, are you kidding me? That's a thing. And then what do you know? 4 years later, I'm like, I've got FOMO, and I think that people who are ambitious and people who are striving for more in their life, that's not a bad thing to want more abundance. I think the challenge is when we say, I don't have it, therefore I'm like, this is bad. Like striving for abundance, beautiful. And when we step into abundant living with positive values and attributes and service to others, then that's the beauty of humanity. And I think that brings out the best in people. But then there's this there's this sense of being able to acquire and access. You are going to learn a new language. You're going to regain your level 10 yoga master, level 1,000 yoga master. Like there's all of this stuff. We have so much you know access to information and possibility, where the stimulation is just on overload. Um, and I think that creates a tremendous amount of brain fatigue, which also strips us or degrades our ability to be with ourselves. And I think that's the number one thing I'm concerned about personally. Is I certainly respect coronavirus and COVID-19, and I'm not ignorant to think that if I'm immune to it, or that it has it's a fatal virus. Like I respect the medical side of it. Socially, from a society, from a global standpoint, I am not concerned with me getting coronavirus necessarily. I am more concerned with how unprepared most people are, especially in the United States, with how to truly be with themselves when things are drawn out, monotonous, there's nowhere to go, there's no real distractions, and the heaviness of kind of, we'll just say, the monotony of social isolation and quarantine starts to crack the foundation. That's when people go crazy, and that's what I'm more concerned about, not necessarily me getting it. Yes, I'm concerned about the healthcare system being completely flooded and overwhelmed, but like from a human behavior standpoint, I'm more concerned with what happens when that pressure of being with oneself finally breaks them. And some of my past experiences and training and whatnot have highlighted just how real and just how fragile that system can be. And I know, like, and I'm not perfect at it by any means. I've, just like anybody else, a lot of room to go, but I have spent a lot of time alone and in my thoughts, and among kind of these hardship type things. Um, and it's incredibly challenging, and I don't think we're in a day and age where we can we know how to effectively handle that anymore because of the distractions. And you know like, that was a thing we talked about, I think, on the last one too, where it was like, look, stop checking your phone, not you, but like, stop checking your phone at red lights. What, like, how is that possible? It's 30 seconds at most, but we are constantly kind of reaching for these little hits of information or sensory sort of it scratches. It's like a sensory itch. We just constantly scratch. And so, yes, I could have just said yes.
No, I agree with you. That term brain fatigue, I think, is exactly what I'm feeling, where it's, whether it's a combination of this FOMO, so you're just trying to smash everything into your brain, that you can. And, a great example for me was everyone's watching this show Tiger King right now. So I started watching it and it was very entertaining. And it's a crazy person, right? Like, it's fun. Like, and then after that first episode, I was like, I'm only watching this so I know what everyone else is talking about, but I don't care about this crazy person with tigers. And that's where I
Yeah,
was like, I'm choosing to spend this hour learning about this instead of something that's actually important to me.
yeah,
And that's where the struggle lies.
yeah, for sure. And I think that one of the things that's so my wife, Cariana, she likes watching TV. All right. We don't watch a ton. She doesn't watch a ton, so I have to, like, make sure I don't walk myself into an ambush here. But she likes watching TV. I like reading or just like kind of being still. All right. When so I say that to say I understand, like, watching TV is natural. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna watch a show. It's entertainment. Like, yeah, of course. I'm not saying everyone should just, never watch TV. However, I think when we look at, well, what am I really getting out of this thing? Like, why do I really want to watch this show? And frankly, my opinion is, for many people, they just want to tune out. They just want to kind of turn their brains off and disconnect and disengage. And I, again, like, I get that. I do understand that. I think in 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 appropriate doses, that's necessary. Um, but I also think that it's very easy to abuse that, and then just to go to that and hide behind, I need to tune out, versus what's causing you the urge to feel like you have to tune out in the first place. And so, um, if you have an hour or 2 hours to watch Joe Exotic, don't tell me you don't have 5 fucking minutes to journal about what did you learn today, or what is the life I want to live. Like, you have 5 minutes to check in with yourself and to pause and to really connect within and express something. You have that time. How you choose to spend it, and if you choose to engage in it, totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and wrapping this up, I think that's a really good point. And maybe my last question of just, I think for most of us, like, I use The Office, and it's exactly what you said. It's like, that's literally my brain shuts off. And there's
Mhm.
probably, if you're kind of digging into it, it's probably there's some dopamine release, maybe, and all that stuff. But why do you think most people, it's like we choose to, that's a common expression, like just shutting my brain off, I'm relaxing, whatever. Choose to
Yeah,
do it by being distracted versus sitting in stillness.
because what you're doing during the day, you're not seeking fulfillment, and you're not fulfilled, and you're not satisfied in your life, and there's something absent that you need to step into internally first, and connect really more with who you are, and 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 action that and represent who you are through your actions, and then being able to accept that this is how you seek fulfillment and joy in your life. And I think that if we're able to do that more, we're able to find more of that inner peace, and we sort of remove the element of I just need to tune out and I just need to, basically turn my brain off because of all of this other sort of stuff throughout my day that I'm doing, that I'm not seeking that, or I'm not obtaining and extracting that fulfillment.
So by distracting ourselves, that's what's it's helping us forget that, or it's helping kind of mask that fulfillment.
I think it helps in not running anymore. It's like a hard stop. Your brain is like shutting you down and just saying, look, I do not want to. I can't keep going. And so if we go through our day and we're not really in the present moment and appreciative and connected connected to living like basically an authentic life and things that bring us joy, that is incredibly taxing, where we're just this constant sort of stress of I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this. I what am I doing with my life? Or like I just am not interested and connected and present in what I'm doing. Um, I think that that over time builds up, and then it's like your brain just kind of says like enough, I'm done. Just I need to just check out. Um, and again, I think that if that happens like occasionally, like that's understood. Like your brain will fatigue. Um, but if it's the chronic kind of every night, and then we look at, okay, well, what do we do? How do folks check out? Watch Netflix, pour a drink, two drinks, three drinks, maybe eat like, binge or eat less than desirable food. Some folks, they work out 3 and 4 times a day when that's like not what they should do. So we go to these things to sort of escape. And I think we can counter escaping by entering into a more authentic life, and that starts by looking within and kind of understanding and who we are.
Easier said than done. And whenever I
What? Yeah.
finish chatting with you, I'm always like, okay, this is what I need to, there's like nothing necessarily tangible. This is step one. There's just so many things you need to start with. But I think for a lot of us, especially in this, period of time, it's like, hey, find quiet, find
Yes.
at least 5 minutes, and that whether that's during and you're to your point, you're gonna get different reactions if it's during an intense bout of exercise, a long walk, or sitting on your couch.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that find the finding the pause. I think people often say like, hey, we need to take a pause. Yes, you need to find it sometimes. And so finding the pause also paves the way for presence to be felt and stepped into. And that's it. If we're in the present moment, like the pause is the tangible action we take to be present. And then when we are present, we're just pay attention. Just try to be aware of what you are, thinking and feeling. And then give it some time and notice as well, like, am I just completely unable to sit here for 5 minutes and listen to the howling wind outside? It's crazy windy out here. Am I needing to be distracted, or am I thinking about whatever? And sort of just starting the process, because it can be incredibly overwhelming. And I think that's why people just frankly don't start, because they're like, it's just too much and I've got all this stuff going on. It's like, right, so maybe it's just 5 minutes a day. Maybe it's for half of your workout you don't listen to music, and then you put music on the second half. Or when you go for a walk, maybe you don't call your friend or whomever, or maybe you just walk in silence. And so finding those little moments of pause, um, with wherever you're at, I think is a critical first step to you know really raising that awareness.
Yeah, and like you said, I think this time is when a lot of us are realizing it, and hopefully, listening to this helps, because I agree with what you're saying. A lot of people are gonna, drive themselves a little crazy not knowing what to do with this.
Yeah, we're there is a there is, I think, a and I hesitate saying this, but I hope it's the intention is understood. There's a beauty about what's happening right now, in that as human beings, we are globally equal in this thing. And I can't recall when the entire world and our globe has been this equal. And no one's above this. Everyone's life has been impacted to a degree. And when has this happened where on this global scale, we've kind of all been brought down to kind of the mean and this equal element? And so, there's that human connection element that is, in my opinion, like kind of a beautiful thing, yet tragic, obviously, and nobody would want this to be the case, but it is what our experience and environment is right now. And so we have in that an opportunity that has always been there for us to pause and try to get to know ourselves better, to be curious and inquisitive with the life we want to be, who we want to be, how we want to be, but we just haven't had whatever motivations or influences to step into it. Well, Mother Nature is providing us all an amazingly beautiful gift right now. And I think that if we approach this as an opportunity to get to know ourselves better, um, then we can come out of this thing better. I don't want to go back to the person I was before coronavirus was what it was. I want to come out of this thing a better person. And otherwise too, you know, I think it's worth saying, because my obviously, like, service to me is incredibly important. There are folks, the nurses, the doctors, the garbage men, the shopkeepers, that all, like, the people who simply cannot stay home and have the luxury of being confined in their home. They are surviving right now. They are surviving right now, and they are going to be the ones who, for the most part, pull us through this thing. I am not contributing anything to the health of others, to the sanitary operations. Like, we don't want trash on the streets. Trust me, we do not want that. Those garbage folks and sanitation workers should be getting tipped weekly. Uh, um, I'm not going to contribute anything. I'm a supporting element at best to maybe someone else. They're surviving right now. They're fighting. They're on the front lines. Everyone else has an opportunity to thrive. And if you don't take that on as something that you should do for yourself, well, do it for those who can't. And when I think about how my headspace is during this time, and how my actions are going to be representative of the authentic person that I am and I want to be, I think about the people who, yeah, frankly, they're just up, basically kid up, go to the front lines, back down. I made another day. I've lived that life of just wanting to have the head hit the pillow at the end of the day, and that's a major win. And there's a lot of folks who are living that life, and they don't have the benefit and the good fortune of saying, "Wow, I really get to explore and understand who I am in this capacity." They're definitely going to have some transformative experiences, again, even though tragic. But everybody else who's basically just being told, "Hey, sit home, learn how to play guitar, learn Arabic," whatever it might be. um, you kind of, the way at least I am approaching this, I owe it to them to be a better person out of this, because they weren't afforded that opportunity, and hopefully we can motivate and do that.
I think we're trying, and even if it's just listening to this podcast. So in the meantime, where can people check out what's going on with Between the Years online?
Yeah, so you can go to Instagram will probably be the best way to just kind of get an overall view. So at Between the Ears, BTWN, the ears. You can certainly go to betweentheears.com. My personal name, Bill Anthes, Bill Anthes. All those are the best way.
Well, there you have it, and of course we'll provide those. But Thanks, Bill, for coming on. You've motivated, made me think a little bit. I've got a lot to do today now to get to that stillness, but I'm gonna make it happen.
What's the first thing that comes to your mind that you have to do?
That I have to do, or that I'm going to do for this?
That you're going to do, that you're like, this is what comes to mind as I'm going to do.
I think what I really need to do is reevaluate all of the things that I'm putting the pressure on myself about, and figure out why I want to do those, and and which are important and which aren't, and and then also what it means to have been productive in those things.
Yeah,
And
beautiful.
then
Yeah, I think
a,
that's
a little less distraction, at the end of the day. I allow
hmm
myself to just kind of tune out for an hour or two, and like minimizing that.
yeah, I love it. I think it's a good idea, Jay.
So we'll see if it works.
We'll see, buddy.
Thank you, Bill. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
Yes, thanks. You as well.
Thanks for listening to Best Hour of Their Day. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. How cool is that? There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, so it becomes super simple. Some of these episodes with Fern or Todd or myself chatting with one another, we've done right within the app itself. Anchor will make it easy to distribute your podcast to all platforms, Spotify, Apple, and many more. And you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make an awesome podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Come on, who doesn't have Spotify at this point? And if you were unaware, Spotify now is offering podcasts. That's right. On Spotify, you can listen to all your favorite artists, but also podcasts in one place for free. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now, Best Hour of Their Day. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode. Premium users can even download episodes to listen to offline wherever you are, something I always do before I hop on a plane. And you can even easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram and other social media platforms. Here's the deal. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app, search for Best Hour of Their Day on Spotify, or browse some other podcasts if you want. You can find them in your library tab. And also make sure to follow me so you never miss an episode of Best Hour of Their Day. Thanks again for listening to Best Hour of Their Day, and thanks again to our special guest. We appreciate all you guys do for us with Best Hour of Their Day when it comes to sharing our posts on Instagram, when it comes to subscribing to us on YouTube, when it comes to the constant feedback. We are grateful and we appreciate it. We are trying to build a community based on coaching development and becoming the best version of yourself. And it goes without saying that we couldn't do without all of you. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Season 1 of Dropping In is out. We are getting tremendous feedback and we'd love for you to check it out. Leave us a comment on there. Head over to our Instagram, give us a follow, like our pictures. Feel free to share anything that resonates with you. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback for us, please don't hesitate. Email us besthouroftheirday@gmail.com. Thanks again. Until the next episode, we hope you've had the best hour of your day.